What it took for me to recover? It took that I was willing to sacrifice my pride on every level because I was so desperate for freedom. So if it meant that I had to be dismembered, I was willing to do that. Right? And so when it comes to the work and the process of the work that you and I are doing, if you really want to recover, does it make sense to be self-conscious over how you sound in a video?
No, no. When I was saying it, I knew that, but it's the feeling is.
You
I
need to.
guess I just
So that feeling is really more important to you.
no. It isn't more
But it
important to me.
is. It is if you're not willing to get past your pride. You know that's pride. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily. It's not like a. Oh my God! I swear I've got a hair in my eyeball. It's been driving me
Oh,
for
oh,
hours. I'm just like, where is it?
oh my
Ah.
God.
Oh, sorry. So if I keep on playing with my eye, that's because I just can't get whatever lint is in there. Your pride. I can't watch it because I'm too self-conscious. That's really important. You grasp why you're probably relapsed and struggling again, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not really willing to recover. You're more concerned about your pride and being self-conscious and protecting yourself from your own, you're trying to protect yourself from shame, but in reality what it is your ego that says you're a piece of shit. What's wrong with you? That type of stuff. And when it comes to this type of work, in order to make those in order to make the shifts that it's going to take for you to really free your life permanently from this, is it does take that humility to surrender it all and to stop priding yourself and therefore shaming yourself, you know. And on the same token, with this work, you got to forgive yourself for being that way, right? I'm over here saying, you're doing this, you're doing that. But ultimately, in the end, it's why you've suffered to the degree you've suffered to this point. And you've got to be able to forgive the fact that you have that degree of pride and therefore you walk around in self-loathing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not sitting here saying you're doing something wrong, because I don't think you are. But what you're doing does promote it's promoting no change. It's promoting what you've always been doing.
Mm.
And so I've got to be able to go, you've got to look at that positionality and the pride you're putting into whatever you think you should be, that is keeping you from facing and getting information that might be really important for you. Our last session was awesome.
I'll look at it.
You should. You should go back
Yeah.
through all of our sessions if you can.
Yeah.
What if there's something in there that would actually help you? Holy shit, I just saw it. I'm out of here. What if there's something in there for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're willing to risk it for your pride. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. That pride affects lots of aspects of my life and my work, and I know it's not serving me well, but I can still keep doing it.
Well, it's abusive, but you're the abuser. No one else is doing it to you. You're the one who believes in those standards, and you're the one holding yourself to it. Therefore, you're a piece of shit loser who's failing at everything. Make sense? You're the one who's creating that.
Yeah.
No one else you're not the center of everybody's life. You aren't the sun that we all revolve around, right? And so again, when you're like, I'm self-conscious, you're basically saying, I am the center of everything and everybody's paying attention to me and they're shaming me because I'm not meeting that standard and I'm totally sucking. Is that wrong?
No. No.
That's that narcissistic core of survival. Right? Preserve me, me, loathing me, poor me. I'm not what I want to be or what I should be, and they know it. You know, that's the downside of pride. That's why I'm like, you wouldn't think that, right? You wouldn't think that from the outside. Makes sense if someone were to come to you and say, oh, I'm really self-conscious. Would you think right away, oh, that's pride. That's like super ego shit.
No, I wouldn't. No.
No, but what is it? What would make someone self-conscious? Their self-centeredness?
Yeah.
Their self-importance that they're failing at, right? So look at that as your survival mechanism and what has to be surrendered, really. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Let's go into that. This is good. This is good. We went right into it today. You just went right into it. You one sentence and it was like, here we are.
What am I afraid of?
Yeah, go into that self-conscious, because that feeling you had when you were saying, I had said, have you watched our last session? And you said, no, I'm too self-conscious. I'm too self-conscious. Oh, really? Aren't you special?
Don't make me go there.
Right? Well, go into what that feeling was, because you, in order for you to bring those words forward, you were attaching that to a feeling. And so when we say, I'm feeling self-conscious, you're describing an inner sense. Call on that inner sense. I want you to call on your inner, self-conscious. Are you really, and let's look at it. Is it self-conscious or is it is it the ideal conscious? Which one are you? Self-conscious?
When you say ideal conscious, so setting myself up to an ideal that I don't feel that I reach, is that what you mean?
Well, is that what you're understanding with what I just said? Because that is what I mean.
Yeah,
which one is where does that feeling come from? Is it actually from the self, or is it the ideal concept of yourself? Like, I'm going to put it in quotes. There is the true self, and then there's the fake self. Which one's self-conscious? Which one is...
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Well, question it. You're not questioning those emotions. They're just running you because you believe it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting over going, you might want to question that shit because it sounds like shit to me.
Yeah.
You need to see it. What does self-conscious mean? What does self-conscious mean? You know what it means to me is self-centered. And you're holding and it's ego-centered. It's concept-centered. It's like chasing the mirage centered. It's holding yourself to higher standard centered. Like, what standard are you talking about? So yeah, let's look at that for a second. Is it true self-conscious or is it dogma idealism conscious?
It's having an assumed standard that I don't consciously think about, but I feel that I don't reach.
No, it's conscious enough that you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
So it is conscious.
Yeah, when I say it's not something that I've ever spoken out loud or written down in a paragraph. But yeah.
Well, this is where brainwashing comes in, because when you look at your programming, you can say this is a program that I'm holding myself to. So I'm program conscious. Let's call it programming conscious. And I believe it. And I hold myself to it. I don't need someone else to hold me to it. I hold myself to it because I actually believe it. I yearn for it. I want it. I sustain it. Right? So it's, you are your own hostage. This is why you have Stockholm Syndrome, right? You don't need an abuser to hold you to those standards because you do it to yourself. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Could you imagine someone saying to you, you can't listen to those sessions you paid $150 an hour for with Robin because your voice sounds like shit? What would you think about that?
I think they were nuts.
You think they were assholes trying to control you. They're completely abusive. I can't have access to my own recovery because my voice doesn't meet some weird voice standard I'm holding myself to. So the thing is, no one else is doing that to you but you. See where my finger's pointing? At you. No one. So your recovery is struggling. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's possible for someone to recover when they hold themselves to narcissistic levels of highness?
That's the thing that made me sick and kept me sick.
For a long time.
Why would it help me recover if it's...
Well, it's part of the equation of where you got to where you got. You went back to it. Like you went back to your captor. You went back to, battered wife belief system. Right? So you at some point had to have said, oh, maybe I can still get together with my narcissism and things won't be so bad this time. You know what I mean? Things won't be so bad this time when I go into my narcissistic idea of myself. Maybe I can reach that statue of gold supremacy. And everybody, especially me, will feel good about myself.
Yeah.
You went there at some point. Then you have to look at why would you go there? Well, you must have felt to some degree inferior, which means you still hold those beliefs, right? So this is part of the recovery process, right? Not everybody gives up all of their narcissistic belief patterns. You might have given up some, or one, but there's others, how your self-concept, right? It's like you might have given up thin supremacy or thinner, but you wanted to stay as thin as you could. So it had conditions around it. So then there's also this concept, of superiority potentially in your work environment or with other groups, or, there's layers potentially, right, of what you're holding on to. And some people may be willing to give up thin supremacy, but they won't give up the religious dogma, and they wonder why they're still having issues. They won't give up other ultimate programming that serves the, that narcissistic core of survival, which is to say I'm surviving with some form of superiority over others, so I'm less at risk for abandonment and rejection. The downside of that is that you're trapped to make sure you stay elevated. And if you're struggling in one area, you're more likely to emphasize a different area. And, body image type of coping mechanisms are usually something we do when we're a complete failure in another area. Whether it's like dogma around getting married, having kids, or whatever it is that you feel like you're a total loser at, and you believe it, body image can be a great way to say, well, I want to feel good about myself, so I'm going to handle this by making my body better, and I'm going to focus on my health, and that's what's going to make me feel better about this whole thing, right? That's common. So the relapse that you're experiencing after a year of fabulous recovery could be that. I don't know. But you have to question the self-conscious, I'm self-conscious.
Yeah.
Why? What do you need to be ashamed of, embarrassed of? What? And what are you believing that would actually promote that? What belief pattern are you holding yourself to because you believe it that would promote this sense, this kind of poison or rotten apple effect inside your psyche?
Yeah.
Can you pinpoint it?
Sorry, Robin, can you ask me the question again?
Where is it in your life? What in your life is so amazingly important that it's promoting a sense of self-consciousness or failure, inadequacy, embarrassment, inferiority, poor me, I suck, boo-hoo. What is it that you're holding on to that's so wonderful that you suck at? Do you feel bad about relapse? Is it the recovery process that you've made so magical?
The relapse is more baffling than feeling bad about it.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. That's good news. You're not feeling, and because that's common. People think that they've like, I've achieved this, and they make their recoveries an ego, form of ego. I've achieved this. I'm super special. Like I've seen that. And they go into hiding even further down when it wasn't real. They end up having the same issues in different ways or worse ways. They go into hiding and shame. Anyways, and so the good news for you is you're not ashamed of the recovery process. That's good. So that's good news. So it's really about something else. What do you think it's about?
I think you hit the nail on the head the last time when we spoke before, and then I just disconnected and didn't book any more sessions.
Yeah,
I think it was hiding. There's a lot I didn't want to have to expose myself any more than I already had, or talk about it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I think that's okay. I think that's okay. At the time, you did what you thought was the right thing to do. And maybe because of that, the period of time that you did work on your own and do what you needed to do on your own, whether you were repressing the truth, right? You might have been repressing the truth of what was underneath there. You still wanted what you wanted, right? And so then if that's the case, can you see why it would make sense why you would stop working with me?
Yeah, I can now.
It doesn't make sense to use those sessions. So if you're not ready to fully go through the process, you've gone through a significant aspect of it. Don't you agree?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That in and of itself was probably relieving enough that you were grateful. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. You repressed the truth of what was still there and probably tried to get what you wanted to get. Yeah. And it blew up in your face.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah, but that to me is so valuable. That is such a valuable experience for your long-term process.
Yeah.
So can you see that inevitably you did what you did because that's where your end point was and what you were willing to expose yourself to. That's all as far as it could have gone at the time. You weren't fully ready to really be done yet. You were part ready. I'll take it, right? That's still good. That's still better.
Still good.
At least you didn't commit suicide. You were right there. So, hey, you got that going for you. And again, I think what I've been learning too as a coach through this process is that if I'm suggesting you or any other client to do something they're not ready for, you're going to repress it. You're going to repress to some degree what's still there, right? I still want to be thinner. I still am afraid of the fatterness. I don't want to gain any more weight. And you might feel that if I lead you in that direction, because there is some codependent fear of rejection and abandonment that if you tell the truth, I'm going to judge you. Did you have any of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I'm not judging you. I've been there. I know exactly what you're going through. It's not worth being judged. You have to be ready. You have to be like, this is why I always tell people you might need to suffer some more. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There are a few clients I've worked with for years, right? On and off. But in general, it's been like once a month, twice a month conversations. And then other times we're talking twice a week, just, it ebbs and flows in the work that we do, where I'm like, I think you should go on a diet. I say it wholeheartedly, not because then go on a diet. You're going to mess up. But of course, that's what's going to happen. But I truly believe that's an important part of their own process of getting the recovery that I know it can be there. It's not a matter of, could you recover here and now? Yes, everybody could. But have you done the work? And what I mean by work is, have you suffered enough? Maybe you need to suffer some more. You have more karmic debt to serve, whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
For whatever you did in the previous lifetime that deserved this, you got to serve it fully, right? It's kind of a funny way to think about it, don't you agree?
I've had a contemplative day today, and I've watched a lot of the videos, and I think the very first time I spent I was completely mired in self-pity. I mean, it was the biggest pity party that anyone had ever thrown.
There's that narcissism again, trying to claim the biggest and worst pity party on the planet. My pity party's worse than theirs.
But today I've been thinking, and I did wake up feeling sorry for myself, because I'd been binging and purging last night, and I felt physically really ill.
Oh well, get over that. Get over the physical problems. You don't care about those things. You really don't. If you did, right, you would probably face your actual issues. So it's a matter of the weight, right, of what's worse, the suffering physically, the limitations, the obsessive compulsiveness, the fact that you can't think about anything else, you have no life, you have no real freedom, you're hollow inside, you're really nothingness in reality. That's the consequence. That's the suffering you actually live with, because you get something out of what you're doing. So you're sacrificing your life, your physical health and well-being. Don't be in denial about that. Right?
Yeah.
For what? What do you get out of it? What are you getting out of your binge purge cycle that is so fabulous that you're like, don't care? Think about it.
Today I got so utterly exasperated, furious with myself, saying, for God's sake, haven't you suffered enough?
Well, of course you haven't. You haven't. There's something you want out of your thin supremacy that you're willing to suffer for. So shaming yourself about the suffering, it needs to stop.
Yeah.
It's a choice you're making. No one's making you do it. You're the one who wants what you want. You gotta surrender that, and you're not willing to. So the suffering aspect of it, it's worth it when it comes down to it. Even though you want to complain about it and you're miserable with it and you want to feel sorry for yourself, you actually don't care when it comes to what you're getting out of the binge purge cycle, which you and I both know is thin supremacy. Superiority. I can't gain weight. I can't gain weight. Right? I have to fix what I just did, so let's puke it up. Well, what would happen if you stopped fixing what you just did?
I don't get it. There seems to be a distance between what I think I know and what I actually know, because I really honestly think here, right at that I really don't care about weight or being fat. I really think that, but obviously
you do, otherwise you wouldn't purge.
And I don't get it.
The whole purge is to remove your feelings of shame and guilt about weight gain. That's what that is. You would not purge otherwise. So stop purging. What would happen?
Nothing bad.
Well,
just the same as happened last year.
Well, go into the truth now. What would happen internally if you didn't purge?
How I'm feeling now.
I'm going to ask the question again. So go back to the binge and now you're not purging, what would happen? What would change? What would come up?
I think I'd probably howl and cry.
Yeah. Why?
And scream.
Probably because you're having a fit. Fit about what?
Yeah, I'd have a fit.
That's the narcissistic, bullshit, self-righteousness. So keep on going. Let the self-righteous part of you have a fit. What are you crying about?
Oh my God, because I'm not getting what I want.
Which is?
This, I can't believe I'm having to say, to be thin, for God's sake, to be thin.
Are you trying to convince yourself? I swear to God, Robin, I don't care. Really? Tell the truth. Stop repressing the truth. If you can't be truthful with yourself, you're not going to recover. Because the truth is there. You just don't want to talk about it. So intellectually, you know the route. The intellect understands this versus this and this and this and this. Useless. It's useless. That part has no power. It has been hijacked and is serving your repressed desire, which is holistically narcissistic, to be thin.
And it goes right back, that first question. Did you look at your... No, too self-conscious.
Too self-conscious. Well, because I don't really want recovery. You really don't want recovery. You know what you want? You want thinness. And you're probably hoping deep down that you could get your thinness and not binge and purge at the same time. So you're wanting everything your way at this point. So suffer some more. It's your karma. I love this. This whole process is amazing to me. If you're not willing to tell yourself the truth.
Oh my God.
The only reason you're purging is because if you don't, you're going to get fat. And you can't do that. And the only reason why you freaking binge is because you told yourself you were going to purge. So if you don't get your purge, you're left with your reality.
I know when I made that decision.
Oh, yeah, it's cognitive. You're so conscious. This is not unconscious shit.
I made the decision. I put that food on the kitchen service and I said to myself,
I'm gonna
eat it because I'm going to purge afterwards.
That's right. Kabam! And then you're going to sit here and go, I don't know, Robin. I don't know what's going on.
But what I don't know is why...
Yes, you do.
That intellectual... What I didn't know until I spoke to you now is that intellectual part of saying, I don't care.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. This is why you get people who are PhDs and who have all this sorts of psychoanalysis, and they've got all of these I'm super smart, psychological PhD, and they have horrible, horrible psychological well-being because it doesn't translate. That intellect is being held hostage by your narcissistic core of your survival. So it's working really hard. The good news is I can see right past it because I've been through this. I've done it myself. I can see it clearly, and that's how I can give you the feedback I do. You're full of shit. Tell yourself the truth. And I say that with love. Because you're afraid and you're repressing yourself from what feels so scary. You don't want to look at it. It's terrifying. You're in terror. So of course you're going to repress the desire to be thinner because you've actually lived in hell. And to some degree, you're slightly out of it. You're just kind of the next step up in Dante's Inferno. You're no longer in the... right? You're still pretty far down there, but it's a little better. So you're going to go, okay, so it's a little better. Let's keep on doing what I used to do. You've got to really face the terror that's underneath all of this. Like I said, the need to repress the truth and to lie to yourself is really a self-defense mechanism. It really is. So it's understandable. The fear that you have in there must be that bad. Right? It must be that intense, that deep, that large for you to hold on to this mechanism that is full of horror and terror and suffering, to where you're physically harming yourself. You're killing yourself physically. You know, the acid reflux crap you're dealing with, you know, the binging and purging, as you know. And you came to this point when you had to get, when you were hospitalized, when we first started working a year ago, right? How bad does it have to get before you actually face the issues? You see what I mean? It's like, it's really not that bad yet. I think, say that again?
Bad enough for me.
It's really not. Be truthful. It hasn't. It's not yet. And that's okay. When it is, it will seem easier to face the fear in relation to what you're living in, right? It's like, oh my God, it's no different than dying. I'd rather just die. Are you there? Are you there again?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Close.
Yeah.
No. Getting there. Oh my God. Getting there.
I think too, when you've had some recovery and you've had a taste of that freedom, it can be really dark to know it's gone. Because now you know there is a way out and you're back to where you were. So it really, what this may help you have is context around knowing how important your thinness has been to you in truth. This is bringing the truth out. It is more important than I intellectually want it to be. It really is my survival, right? So that's what this is bringing to you. So you may never suffer as horribly as you did before, but now you're kind of trapped in it again. What has to happen for you to get out of this? Do you know? What's the first thing? Go in, because there's steps, right? What's the first step that has to happen for you to come out again? And more fully this time.
You tell me the steps.
Well, I want to know if you know right now what's the first thing, if you were to talk to yourself, what's the first thing? Because my goal is that you can help yourself, okay? Of course I'm your guide. Of course I'm here for you. I have relative context and perspective that you in this moment don't have. So, but I want you to really think for a second within your own heart and soul, what's the first thing we need to eliminate here from this equation?
Well, there's some things in my life that I do not deal with, and I'm not being an adult and behaving like a child, and I just won't be responsible. So I think that would be a good starting point.
I think you're right, but that's way more complicated than what I was asking for. Go simpler. Stay in the present of where you're at right now. What's the first thing I'm going to suggest you completely block out from option?
Oh, then.
Purging. Let's start with purging.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you see where you were and where I am? Of course, yes, you're right. You got to just stop purging right now.
Yeah, because...
Yeah, I mean, you're not even, that's your intellect. I just talked to your intellect. Get that out of here. I know you're right. You're right. You're right. You need to grow up, mature. You got to take responsibility. Yes, of course. Let's start with the elimination of purging permanently. Permanently. Forever. Oh my God.
Why would this torture? Oh God.
If you can't stop that, what you just said around, I just need to take responsibility. How you going to do that when you won't take responsibility for something as simple as that?
Yeah.
How you going to do it? How are you going to mature when you are held hostage to this child that says you can't be fat? How are you going to do it? Start with the purge. Eliminate it. Do not allow it to surface. I don't care if you are binging your brains out for 5 people. You are to sit in the terror of what's going to happen. Sit in the terror. I can't do this for you. I can't be the one. I mean, I'm making a suggestion. I'm not your mommy. I am not your, I'm going to whip your hands. I'm not, that's not me.
Yeah.
Don't put me in that position. Right? But I'm just saying, if you really want to start getting that recovery, you might want to start with something as simple as take responsibility for your actions and stop relying on a scapegoat to take away your consequences. Remove any form of purge. Any and all forms. That's where I started. I had to back out. I had to get rid of everything that I was using to hide from my reality, to eliminate the reality, to manipulate the outside looks, I've started with I'm removing the purge. I don't care how horrible this terror is. It might kill me. I'm done. I'm not going to remove it. I'm not going to remove the terror. So that means no matter what I eat, no matter what quantity I eat, purging is not an option. So I got to face that side of this death, right? Because there's 2 sides for the bulimic. It's like you not only have the terror of not getting your food, like a binge eater, you also have the terror of being overweight, like the anorexic. So we're going to start with, because you're going to get your food, right? First hierarchy of needs, you're going to get your food. We both know that. That's why the removal of the purge is so terrifying. Are you with me right now?
I am. Yeah.
Get rid of the purge. And you have to do it for yourself, not for me. Don't make me a part of this. I don't want anything to do with it. Okay?
Yeah, deal.
Because if you make me a part of it, I'm going to be your persecutor. And trust me, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
They think I'm the one that is the source of their misery. No, really. Can you see how that would happen?
Yeah.
They think I'm the bad guy. Just tell them the truth. Right? So, you got to do this for yourself. Get rid of your goddamn purge. You're going to have to do it. And what is that going to do? What's going to happen when you remove that purge from in any form? So no exercise. There is no food restrictions the next day. There's no restrictions any day anymore. So there's 2 sides. Get rid of the purge. Get rid of the restriction. That's the second one. Get rid of the purge. Get rid of the restriction. What is that going to take? What's going to happen now? Those are your 2 biggest defense mechanisms. Those are like a shield. They're your shield and armor. I just got rid of both of them. Now what do you have to face?
Being vulnerable.
To what?
Massively vulnerable.
To what?
Sorry, Robin?
To what? Vulnerable to what?
My own feelings.
About what?
Just...
About being fat. That's what that's about. So it's obviously that's symbolic, right?
Yeah.
But so we need to, I'm working backwards. It really is about being fat. That's what you've attached threat and death to. That's why you can see then why you would purge, and in terms of micromanaging your food, why you're susceptible to the shame of eating foods, and then the choice to then binge knowing you can purge. So we're removing the walls here. So it's going to feel like you have no stability. So you're right. I am going to feel vulnerable. You got it. But it's really projecting into weight and size. So you have to literally be vulnerable to weight gain and what that then symbolizes. What does it symbolize to you when you imagine yourself being morbidly obese. What does it mean?
Well, it's about approval. I want people to. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing.
Stop with this whole self-righteous shit.
I was okay. I can't believe I'm saying.
Right, you're human. Why is this so embarrassing? This is you're human.
To admire me and.
Yeah, that's what you get out of it. Remember when I was like, you want that more than you want freedom.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed. You are a human being. That narcissism in you wants you to not be human. So this is not something you should be ashamed of or embarrassed about. You just want someone to like you. You want approval. That admiration aspect of it, though, that part is that is why you have suffered this much, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, because of our wiring as pack animals, has this inner desire to belong and to feel that we have something positive to give, that I am actually inherently have love and am lovable, right? And you've attached that to superiority.
Yeah, I can see.
That's why you are as miserable as you are. This isn't an on and off switch to misery, because some people don't have that degree of narcissism. Yours is pretty high, right? Yeah. And so we can say, okay, do you really need, you have to ask yourself this emotionally. Go into the truth. I don't want to talk to your intellect. I want to talk to the truth that you've been repressing. Do you truly believe that in order for you to be accepted, that you have to be superior to everybody around you and admired and worshipped? Let's add to that, if it requires you live in complete and total suffering.
Oh, the caveat makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the truth. I think that's what you have to the emotional aspect of you has to come to that reality. The truth of the matter is that if I am to be worshipped and praised and put on a pedestal, that's fine. It's going to require you suffer. Do you still want it? Add the suffering component to it, because you've wanted that approval through worship, through admiration. You never attach the suffering to it, however, as a fact in that reality. Yeah. Is it possible for you to get the gratification of being worshipped and admired without suffering?
No.
It's impossible.
No, it's impossible.
No, because you're getting the gratification out of it. The gratification is the problem.
Because the tension it sets up
requires you suffer.
It's boundless. That tension.
Yeah, you're trapped. You're trapped, because now you have to do all this work and do all this stuff, and now you got to be paranoid. You have to think about what are they thinking, and you have to promote yourself in your head, and you have to play this role, and you got to do all this work, and now you're trapped.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's the truth. Right? That's reality, what I just described to you. And you've lived it.
You can be that vigilant all the time.
Yeah. So if given the choice again, would you sign this contract with the devil knowing that what you actually want out of this, you are required to suffer to get it?
No.
So you, in effect, reject. I don't want admiration. I really don't. It's not worth it. Wouldn't you rather, as an alternative, blend into the background? Not be seen, not be noticed. Do what brings you joy and not have that weight of being the center, like the sun of everybody's life around you. That self-centered, wouldn't you rather not be so self-centered? So much so that you want praise and to be worshipped.
Yeah.
You might want to think about that choice, because that's a choice you're making.
It says in do you know the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous?
I know what it is, and I have not fully read it, but I love the big book. The 12 steps.
And it says, selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of all our problems. We have to be rid of it. We have to, or it will kill us.
Well, that's our survival. That's the lower states of consciousness. That is part of our wiring as animals. You can't get rid of it. You just have to transcend it. Transcending it requires humility and the willfulness to not be superior. You can get rid of that. And also willfulness to be rejected, to be truthful about who you really are and what you really are. And to be okay with rejection because of it. That takes humility, right? To say, I'm okay if I'm not the right person for them. I'm okay if I'm not good enough. I am what I am. If that's the truth, I'm okay with that. So being okay with the truth. You know, it's like me saying, you got to be okay with the fact that you repressed all this shit. I don't think that it's something that you should feel bad about. It's, to me, makes sense. You're hiding from pretty severe pain because your only way of existing is to be superior and to be not just loved. You want supremacy. And so you're held to that narcissistic, super high standard of betterment than everybody around you. Right? And what that does is it creates separation.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're alone. You have nothing
Right.
except to chase this idea that I will be seen as wonderful and everybody will think that I'm amazing. All the while, even if they do, even someone does give you that praise, is it so amazing that the suffering diminishes like instantly and you never suffer again because you actually got the praise? Even if you got admiration, you still have to live in suffering. The admiration doesn't get rid of what you got to do on a daily basis to maintain that positionality.
Exactly.
So do you really want admiration? Do you really want it? Because you better want and be okay with the suffering that you need to pair those two together. Is there a way for you to get what you want without the suffering?
No.
So you're going to have to deal with the loss of admiration. You put it in a box and you deliver it. I don't want it anymore. You deliver it to the devil. And you say, I'm done with this contract. I'd rather be a peasant.
To blend in.
Yeah. And if I'm actually inferior, that's the truth. I'm doing the best I can. So I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. Is being inferior really something you should be ashamed of? If that's the truth. Is being inferior something you should be ashamed of if it is the truth?
No. Because I'm not inferior.
Well, isn't that relative? What if you are?
Human. Oh, what if I am?
Yeah, go there. Like, of course, we can say, well, inferiority is really relative to this concept of superiority. And let's just say everybody out there believes in this concept of supremacy and narcissistic ideology, then you are going to be considered in some people's minds inferior, inadequate, not good enough. Is being inferior something you should be ashamed of if it is the truth?
rather be inferior than free than superior, and then that
entrapped.
Constant.
Yeah, me too.
To manage.
And self-centered, right?
Degree.
Hallelujah. Me too. I don't think that it's worthy of shame. If it's the truth, it is the truth. And if you know in your heart that you don't mean no harm, you have good integrity, you're doing the best you can with what you're aware of, and it's still inferior, that's the truth. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's the truth. So you can sit there and go into denial and say, no, it's not. Let me show you why. Now you're suffering again.
Yeah.
Why can't you just say, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not cut out for the job. I'm not cut out. So you should find someone who is.
I go, but I quit.
Yeah. Find someone else who's better. That's what you should do. If you're truly not cut out for the job, they should find someone who is. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I gave it.
I know. Does it mean that you suck? Does it mean you're a terrible human being? Does this translate to you should be ashamed of who you are? You're a horrible person.
No.
Yeah, and that's where you've kind of lost your shit, because in your mind you have an identity of I'm superior. I'm the most amazing. And if you're really not, what happens?
It's so true.
You know,
so true. You're saying it's so true.
Yeah, you take it personal. Like it's a personal indication of my inferiority.
Truest thing I've ever heard.
You just need to go look up narcissism and traits of narcissism, and you're going to see yourself all over in it. But it's not you. It's that human, like we're all that way under these circumstances with the concept of supremacy. So that's the tailored difference, is you're the same as all human beings in survival mode, seeking superiority and praise to get out. The problem is you can't get out because you're trapped by your own self-centeredness and self-preservation. So you never really get out of it because your survival is your self-concept attached to all of these conditions. It's not really attached to just the truth. It's attached to the conditions that you're trying to create outside of yourself, one of which is thin supremacy. So it's miserable. It's a miserable place to be. And it's so defensive, right? So defensive. And paranoid. The paranoia to me is so poisonous. Because you don't trust anybody. You don't know how to connect from the heart. You only connect from details. Let me make sure I drive the right car. I'm going to have the right clothes. Make sure they know exactly what type of product bag I'm wearing and the shoes I'm wearing. And then I've got to tell them exactly how much education I have and what awards I've gotten. I got to also make sure that when I do order food in front of them that I am ordering the right food. And I order the right bottle of wine because all of it is symbolic of my superiority. It's just, amazing. Think about it. Should anybody have to work this hard just to be just accepted?
No.
And you know what's really crazy is other people who are stuck in this, they're going to eat you alive. And then you're going to feel like you're competing with the biggest sociopathic douchebags that are going to destroy the fucking planet. You're going to lose.
It's so fragile as well.
Yes, it is. It's fake. It's a lie. You're lying. You just convinced yourself that it's true.
Yeah.
Because you want it so bad. Then really, when you think about it, you just want to feel loved. Is there something wrong with that? The desire to feel loved? Is there something wrong with that?
I just wanted to prove I was normal.
Which to you was love. Is there something wrong with your the route or the means to that end had a lot of problems, right? And it came with a high cost. Dante's Inferno at the bottom. That was the cost. Right?
Right.
Your desire to feel loved and to be loved and to feel good within your heart, that to me is been, you've always had that as your integrity. That actually is not the problem. The mechanism you chose, however, to do that, you might want to rethink that there, my dear. You might want to rethink your strategy.
It's like a mania.
Yeah, it is. So we're talking about it right now. This is not this is not as easy. I mean, it is as easy as this conversation, but to surrender that superiority, your brain and the way you've wired it at this point is going to say, you're going to die. No one's going to love you. There's going to be so many threats. You're going to lose your job. So-and-so is going to win. So-and-so is going to win. There's going to be a lot of shit that comes up that's going to bring you in. It's like the walls are going to close in on you. You haven't been through that yet. This conversation is stimulating your intellect. We're giving you, we're just giving you context to go, this is why you're suffering. And if you don't surrender your superiority, you're going to continue. And you're seeing that going, you're right. This conversation is not getting rid of your superiority. You have to do that.
Yeah.
You got to stop freaking purging. Stop managing your food. Now see what happens. Now let this inferiority arise. And it's going to come across as if you're going to die. And what do you think I'm going to suggest you do? Run away? Feel sorry for yourself?
Just need to experience.
It's 5:30.
Sorry, Robin.
That's right. Well, it's what time is it here? 10:30.
You can tell. Okay, sorry. I'm just thinking answers.
Okay, let's talk about our 5:30. Was that an American accent or an English accent?
Sorry?
Was that an American accent? 5:30. That's funny.
I did really comforting.
5:30.